Welcome to the Gray Divorce Podcast, hosted by divorce financial analyst and retirement planning counselor Andrew Hatherley. Join Andrew and guest experts as they help late-life divorcees build the financial and mental foundation for a meaningful future. There is life after divorce. Now, on to the show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Gray Divorce Podcast. I wanted to do something a little different this episode. I recently had the opportunity to attend the 2024 Nevada Family Law Conference in beautiful South Lake Tahoe, and I wanted to share my impressions of the conference. Now, I assume this conference is pretty similar to other state family law conferences around the country, although other states would be hard-pressed to find a location as beautiful as Lake Tahoe, but that's my Nevada pride flag flying there. As an event organized by the Family Law section of the Nevada State Bar, the primary attendees at this conference are family law attendees or family law attorneys practicing in the state of Nevada. But lots of other people attend too. There were several family court judges at the conference, some presenting, some just attending. I also met paralegals, other people who work at the Family Law Self-Help Center, and other divorce professionals. These divorce professionals included certified divorce financial analysts like me, who work as a financial advisor with people going through or recently emerged from divorce. But there were also divorce mortgage specialists, quadro specialists, business valuators, CPAs, psychologists, therapists, and more. Essentially, anybody working in the area of family law in the state of Nevada. Although, as I said, the most prominent group, at least by my estimation, were attorneys, paralegals, and their staff. So this was my third time attending the Nevada Family Law Conference. In March 2020, the conference was held in Bishop, California. And we all remember back to March 2020. You may not be surprised when I tell you that we received word, I think it was before the end of the first day of the conference, I'm pretty sure it was, that the conference had to close down because of COVID. I remember being very disappointed because that evening a barbecue dinner and s'mores feast was planned. And my wife Jackie has been teasing me mercilessly for the last 4 years about how I missed that s'mores get-together. Anyway, my second time attending the Family Law Conference was last year in March. And by then, the conference had been moved to Lake Tahoe. Now, if any of you know Lake Tahoe, you know that the weather in March can be somewhat unpredictable. And sure enough, once again, the conference was affected by another act of God, this time in the form of a major blizzard. But at least the blizzard waited until the last day of the conference, so we were able to attend most of the classes and get home safely, if we got on the road soon enough. Well, the powers that be wisely scheduled this year's Family Law Conference for the end of September, and this time it was third time's a charm. The weather was glorious in Lake Tahoe, and the scheduling of the class sessions was such that it enabled us to get some fresh air in the afternoon and enjoy some walks or hikes around the lake in the woods. And I certainly took advantage of that, and it was very, very pleasant. Okay, Andrew, what about the conference itself? Okay. Well, I enjoy attending this conference for a few reasons other than the ability to get away to a wonderful place like Lake Tahoe. First and foremost is that the conference gives me an opportunity to meet family law attorneys who I may not know very well or with whom I've only had a casual acquaintance. Maybe we've connected via email or on LinkedIn or Facebook or what have you. So it's a good chance to meet attorneys in person and get to know them better and for them to get to know me and how I work with divorcing clients. And it's an opportunity to see if we might be a fit, whether that may be my referring clients to them for legal services or the attorneys referring their clients to me, either A, before or during the divorce process to help with the financial aspects of the case, or B, after the divorce is done to help with the financial planning and investment management as the divorcees rebuild the financial foundation for the next stage in their lives. Not only is the conference an opportunity to meet the attorneys in person and to find out whether we might connect personally and be a fit to work together professionally, it's an opportunity to find out how these particular attorneys work, what are their styles. If you listened to any episodes of the Great Divorce podcast where I've spoken to attorney guests or discussed the various options for getting divorced, you'll know that I strongly recommend finding the attorney that's right for your unique situation. Some attorneys are very settlement-minded and don't like to go to court. They may practice alternative dispute resolution processes like mediation or collaborative law or the relatively new amicable divorce process. I've come across attorneys at the conference, some of whom practice one of these processes, some practice two, and some practice all three. Of course, there are also attorneys who practice none of these alternative dispute resolution processes and are much more focused on litigation. These are the types of attorneys you probably want if you think your divorce is going to be highly contested and end up going to trial. Of course, we've discussed many times before on the podcast that going to trial is very expensive and very stressful, and only a minority of cases, about 5%, really end up going to trial. But sometimes there may not be a choice. It may be inevitable. And in those cases, you're going to want to work with a good litigator. The second main benefit of attending the Family Law Conference are the classes. These classes are a great opportunity to stay up to date on the law in your particular state. And they're also an opportunity to learn about divorce trends nationally. And these classes also open a window to areas where attorneys may benefit from education I can provide. That's an opportunity in the financial realm to see where I can add value to the attorneys that I work with now or hope to work with in the future. So let me give you an overview of the agenda at the most recent conference. First of all, the conference was 3 days long, and the sessions ran from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on 2 days, and on one day ran till 4 p.m. Typically, sessions were an hour long, although on the day where the conference ran till 4 p.m., there was a 3-hour session on family law basics, which was oriented towards new attorneys and paralegals. On the first day, the focus was on financials in divorce, so that held particular interest for me. We had a session on how to examine a tax return, for instance, how to determine how much cash a company is generating for temporary support orders, alimony, and child support. We also had a session on the business of valuations and how to approach and adjust business valuations accordingly. For me, the most eye-opening session on the first day was a judges panel, which reviewed the financial disclosure form from a judicial perspective. And I'll get back to that in a minute. On day one, there was also a session which went over the admission of evidence in a mock trial. That was very interesting and interactive and quite entertaining. It's funny, but I remember a similar presentation. I think it was last year at the conference. And every time I watch trial attorneys do a mock trial or get into the procedures of a trial, there's a little part of my brain that wonders whether I shouldn't have been a trial attorney. I suppose that's the little argumentative part of my brain that may feel as if it hasn't been given due acknowledgement. Anyway, despite the fact that I tell people that you can do anything at any stage in life, I don't think I'll be going to law school at age 61. So in the afternoon of the first day, as I mentioned, there was a special 3-hour presentation on family law basics. This was principally directed towards new attorneys and paralegals, but as a non legal divorce professional, I found it very informative, as I'm sure many of my colleagues did also. The second day focused on several child custody and parent child issues in divorce. I won't go into detail on that because this is the Great Divorce Podcast, and the fact is, very few of the listeners in this podcast have minor children. Suffice it to say that the topics of child custody evaluations, child support programs in Nevada, and issues of parental alienation were all discussed in depth and were given proper acknowledgement. I will take a moment here to encourage you to listen to the Great Divorce Podcast, episode 16. In that episode, I discussed the effects of gray divorce on the adult children of gray divorcees. That conversation was with Dr. Carol Hughes, author of the book Home Will Never Be the Same Again. And incidentally, as I noted 2 episodes ago on the 50th anniversary episode of the podcast, or the podcast that celebrated the 50th episode, the episode on adult children of gray divorce is the most downloaded episode of the podcast. So you might want to check it out. The last day of the conference had 2 sessions dealing with the emotional trauma of divorce. The first, helping to identify trauma in the litigating parties, and the second session dealt with what's called vicarious trauma, or identifying the effect of emotionally charged divorces on the attorneys and their potential burnout. And of course, those are both worthy subjects. I wouldn't necessarily expect to see a family law conference deal with the potentialities of growth after divorce. After all, once the divorce is signed and filed, the attorney-client relationship is typically over. But personal growth after divorce is a subject I discussed in episode 4 of the podcast and is a subject very dear to me. I would also encourage you to listen to episodes 21, 22, 29, and 30, where I go into detail on 4 tools of positive psychology to help you rebuild after late life divorce. The final session of the conference dealt with ethical law practice and avoiding malpractice suits. I'm sure it was an interesting presentation, but by that time I was facing a 7-hour drive home from Tahoe to Vegas, so I cut out a little early. As I mentioned a moment ago, the most eye-opening session for me was the judges panel, where they reviewed the financial disclosure form. Now, the financial disclosure form, let's call it the FDF, is a standard form used in all divorce actions in the state of Nevada. The FDF is a very important document in divorce litigation and is relied upon by the judge to make important decisions in the case. Every state requires some form of financial disclosure in divorce, but all states don't have the exact same financial disclosure form. The FDF requires each party to disclose a substantial amount of personal and financial information under penalty of perjury, including age, education, prior and current employment, year-to-date and gross monthly income from all sources, voluntary and involuntary payroll deductions, taxes, Social Security, health insurance, retirement plans, etc. If applicable, business self-employment income and legitimate business expenses, personal monthly expenses for minor children, financial contributions from other household members, assets and debts, including a description, gross and net value, the amount owed, and whose name is on the asset or debt, and attorney's fees and costs paid and owed, and the 3 most recent payroll statements or other proof of business self-employment income. So there's a lot on these financial disclosure forms. And what surprised me in the judge's presentation was how annoyed the judges get with family law attorneys on, 1, how financial disclosure forms are often filled out incorrectly, 2, how sloppily attorneys fill out financial disclosure forms. And 3, the frequency in which the financial disclosure form is submitted well beyond the court deadline. First of all, each party's FDF must be complete and accurate at all times. And anytime a party learns their FDF is incomplete or incorrect in some material respect, that party is required by law to file an amended FDF within 14 days. Now, in Nevada, the family law court requires each party to file an initial financial disclosure form within 30 days of service of the complaint for divorce. One judge commented that he often gets the financial disclosure form on the day of the case management conference. Now, this is well beyond the 30-day deadline, as the case management conference is generally set within 90 days of a response or answer to the divorce being filed. Of course, my ears perked up when I heard the judges speak this way, because it represents a tremendous opportunity for me and my clients. The judges said it explicitly. Those attorneys and clients that take the time to submit a good financial disclosure form have a distinct advantage over the opposing party. Now, the importance the judges give in getting financial disclosure forms filled out correctly, completely, and on time should be recognized by you, the clients of these attorneys who are responsible for submitting these forms to the judges. I know attorneys aren't exclusively to blame for the late filing of these reports. I know for a fact that many clients procrastinate in filling these forms out or, frankly, don't put the priority on them that they should. Divorcing clients may be overcome with the emotions of the divorce, whether it's anger, denial, or any other form of anxiety or extreme emotion, that they don't get these forms filled out properly or on time. But as I say time and time again in this podcast, it's so important for you, the client, to take an active role with your attorney in your divorce case. And the timely and accurate submission of financials is one of those times. So here's a sales pitch to any family law attorneys who might be listening to the podcast. If you need help getting your clients to fill out financial disclosure forms accurately, comprehensively, and clearly, and by clearly I mean typed, not handwritten in pencil. Yes, I have seen that. Please give me a call. Attorneys and clients I've worked with are impressed by the quality of reports I provide them, not only the financial disclosure form, but also the marital balance sheet and the parties' budgets. I hope you've enjoyed this little peek behind the doors of a family law conference. If you are going through mid to late life divorce and want financial advice from someone who's been through gray divorce and has worked with dozens of late life divorcees over the last 8 years, please reach out to me at andrew@wiserdivorcesolutions.com. I'd be happy to provide a free 20-minute consultation. And if you're emerging from divorce and need help with financial planning and investment management, please visit my website, transcendretirement.net, and schedule an introductory call. It's also free of charge. That's all for now. Until next time, take care. See you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Gray Divorce Podcast. To learn more or get in contact with your host, you can visit Andrew's website at transcendretirement.net. Also, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Information provided is educational only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Each situation is unique and should be discussed with your tax or legal advisor prior to implementation. Andrew Hatherley is not an attorney and does not provide legal advice. Information provided is financial in nature. Advisory services offered through Hatherley Capital Management, LLC. Divorce financial analysis services offered through Wiser Divorce Solutions, an affiliated company.